welcome to the session of remote sensing and GIS. So till now we have discussed about the process of scattering. What are the various types of scattering? How is scattering important? Because when any rays coming from the atmosphere, it will scatter, right? And we need to have the energy from it. So let's see that what can be done further towards that. So after the energy is scattered, there will be the other functions which are going on, which is known as refraction, reflection, absorption, right? And we need to see this because energy absorption by feature is very important when energy is coming back to the earth and going to the sensor again, right? So let's discuss that in detail. First of all, I would like to recall the session that what we have already discussed. The first is the scattering. You can see here there are various numbers of scattering, right? We have the relay scattering, we have the mu scattering, we have the non-selective scattering, right? And according to the scattering, we have the different types of things which can be identified from that scattering. That if we have the dust, pollen, then we have called as a me scatter, right? We have a relay scatter that occurs when the particles are very small compared to the wavelength of radiation, right? Now I would like to recall that we all know that wavelength in radiation has been already discussed in the electromagnetic spectrum. Now let's move further and see that after scattering, the effect of this scattered ray happens what to the earth feature. Now, let's look here, student. You know that there are the processes which is very basic and common process. You also know these processes, right? So basically, this process is known as refraction, as you can see in the image, right? Next is the reflection, and third one is the absorption. Now, you might have a question that why we are going into such a detailed thing. Yes, in a very simple language, in physics, in your school grades, you have learned about the refraction, reflection, and absorption. So, what is the simple sense of absorption? The energy which is absorbed by the material itself. So, we don't have any result out of it. What is refraction? You can see to the image. When rays are coming from the atmosphere, it refracts, means it is traveling from one medium to other medium, so it might changes its all the properties and characteristics. And what is reflection? The rays which are coming are going back again to that substance or again to that physical quantity or again to that, if I can call you, to the sensor, then it is known as reflection in a very simple language. Now, let me discuss that in detail again because these theories are very important to know about the fundamental of remote sensing because it starts in such a way that how is energy absorbed, right? How is energy reflected? How is energy transmitted? And what can be done after these energies are collected? Then only we can process further into the further sessions of all the process what we do on the satellite image, right? So first of all, let's discuss in detail refraction. Refraction, in a very simple way, if I tell you, it is a deflection of electromagnetic radiation as it passes from one medium to other medium, right? So every medium has different speeds and density. Now, let me discuss detail again towards the reflection. Right? What is reflection? In a simple language, if I say whereby the rays which have come from the atmosphere, that is electromagnetic radiation, will bounce off again to that substance or the sensor or the camera from the rays have been came, right? And last is known as absorption. It is a process by which radiant energy is absorbed and converted into the other form of energy, right? We have the example of ozone, carbon dioxide, water vapor are three forms that absorb energy, right? So this is how it absorbs. We have the UV rays. Even UV rays are absorbed somewhere. Water vapor absorbs long wavelength and short wavelength. Now wavelength, we all know that we have seen already in the electromagnetic spectrum, that is visible range, near infrared range, right? Long wave, short wave, what are microwaves, what are hyperspectral waves. That is according to the how reflectance or radiation energy coming to the earth surface from the sensors. Yes, we are going to discuss how is sensor gathering the data. How is sensor helpful to us? Before that, we are seeing all this basic fundamental information. Now, the very first thing is energy interaction with Earth surface, with the surface features, right? So first of all, I would like to give you here an example. Just look at the two images which I have shown. You can see here the energy is radiated, absorbed, transmitted, or it has been gone back again to the thing from where the energy came. Now, a very basic example. You can see here a leaf is of green color. How can you see that leaf is of green color? Some sun energy is also emitted on that, and with that, we can see that leaf is of green color. Our eyes are the sensors which is sending the rays, and we are getting to know that what is the color of it, what is the shape of it, what does it mean, what the object is of, right? So let's see that in detail. Firstly, what happens to the energy that hits to the earth's surface? Right, what happens to the energy? Sometimes it happens that it absorbs, sometimes it happens that it reflects, sometimes it absorbs that it has been bounced back again. So let's see that in detail, right? So radiation which is not absorbed or scattered in the atmosphere will reach to the earth's surface. So basically, when we have a medium from our sensor towards the earth, we have one layer which is known as atmosphere, and in that atmosphere rays should not be absorbed or it should not scatter. Then only we can identify the feature from space to the earth, right? It is not so easy to identify the features, but let's discuss in detail, which is very good to learn and which is new to learn about how we can identify the feature. Because you all know that from the space we have the sensors and cameras which are far off kilometers, and you all know that then also how can we capture the image from it, right? So let's say first of all, one of the three fundamental processes can be absorbed, reflected, and transmitted. This is known as radiative transfer, right? And that is the proportion will depend on wavelength of energy, angle of incidence, and roughness of material, right? Now make here clear that wavelength of frequency of energy, right, means what? When I'm sending any rays to the object that is on the earth, it will have some wavelength in which it can be visible. It is not every time that the rays which are coming from the sensors will directly give us the features. No, it is not possible like that. So first of all, we need to say that in which wavelength this leaf can be seen, or in which wavelength this flower can be seen. So this is how it is possible. In the next way, you can see angle of incidence with the surface. Where is the object? How is the energy coming? How is energy reacting with the object? And how it is going back again in the object from where radiation has been came. So this is how is energy interaction with earth surface. And lastly, we all know that how is the material energy will be reflected according to it. Now let's see in detail for the processes which I have shown here, that is transmission, reflection, and absorption. Now the first one you can see here, look at the flower what I have shown here in the image is the absorption. Absorption occurs when radiation is absorbed into the target, and reflection occurs when radiation bounces off, right? This is what is reflection from the target, so it is redirected. Now when reflection process occurs, sometimes it happens that only a few rays goes back to the sensor where energy to be stored, because the rays are redirected, rays are bounced off, so it is not necessary that energy will be stored, right? And lastly, we have the transmission that occurs when radiation passes through the target. Means to what is our flower, and flower through that if it transmit, then it is known as the transmission process. Means that is almost is transmitted, that is go through of the object, so we cannot have that thing. Now, you can also know that surface is rough or smooth, or surface is dirty or clear, which all can be identified from this race theory only. Race theory means I am just giving you an example, that is of the transmission, reflection, radiation which are absorbed, is I am just calling that rays which has properties, and that will only identify that surface is rough or surface is even or smooth, because when rays come it has its property and it travels from one medium to the other medium. So this is basically is known as how is energy interaction with earth surface. I guess student, now you are clear with the concept of scattering, because scattering happens first and after that the happens of what? Refraction, reflection, absorption. Right? We are going to see the other processes, that if energy is reflected, if energy is stored again into the sensors, then what is the other process is being. Now, when energy interact with Earth's surface, then only we can identify that what is vegetation, what is water, what is soil, right? And what is our main name of fundamental of remote sensing? We need to take the image of Earth's surface, right? And this is how energy interacts with it. This is the very basic phenomenon which I am talking to you. That how is energy transferred to the object and how it can be radiated, right? Now you might have a question that I am just talking about the area that is of the vegetation or the area which is having water. Yes, it can be a flat surface. Even I would like to give you an example that if you see a satellite image, you can see and identify the Kakaria lake also, right? Though Kakaria lake is not just so big, but then also from whole Ahmedabad city a satellite image you can identify the Kakaria area, because area is very large and we can identify it. Yes, we are going to see that how we can identify that things, right? So let us see that this is what is the parameters for it. But if I want to identify that what is below the earth surface, right, even I want to know about it, because analysis are going towards that also. Yes, with the other wavelength frequencies, with the other different types of sensors, we can even identify what is beneath the earth also, right? So that depends on how is whole remote sensing works. So I guess you are clear with how is energy interaction with earth surface. Thank you, and be prepared with this. I hope you are clear with all this.